What up, good people? What's going on with you? Come on in, sit on down. Let's have a little chit chat. Let's chit and chit just for a moment. You know, we've mastered talking about all the things that don't matter. We got that down to a knack. What happens when you shift focus? What happens when you turn your attention from the things that don't matter? What happens when you just really hone in on yourself? When's the last time that something has come up for you, like really disrupted your life? It could have been something devastating. It could have been something painful. It could have been death or loss or something really challenging took place with you. When is the last time that has happened and you didn't pick up the phone and call anybody else to see what they thought? That wasn't your initial response. Your initial response was not to see what anybody else thought about it. Your initial response was to sit with it within yourself, to analyze. Like if there was pain, you didn't immediately try to seek some relief. You wanted to feel that. You wanted to feel the agony. You wanted to feel the disappointment. You wanted to feel the heartbreak. When's the last time you just felt what it was and you didn't run from it? We're addicted to running. What happens when you sit with that thing? If you're feeling sad, then feel sad. If you feel overwhelmed, then feel overwhelmed. You feel happy, feel happy. If you feel, I hate the word, but we'll use it, depressed, then feel it. What happens when you stop running from life? Because all the feelings are valid. The problem comes in is when you allow the feelings and the emotions to be your driver. You allow them to dictate who you will be, how you respond, how you will live your life. And the conversation really is, right? Like, what is happening right now? We're all guilty. Right? We like to just be so dramatic. Humans are dramatic. Boy, I tell you, everything's getting worse. You know, it's interesting times. It's hard times. It's, terrible times are coming. And it's the same old shit. It's just life cycling. Because when you say things like that, my question is compared to what? Like, ask your grandmother how today's times compare to when she was in high school or when she was in her 20s. Like, it's all relative, right? And so we like to feel that things are more difficult than they really are. I'm not saying that things aren't difficult, but there's this tendency to kind of get high off our own supply. If I constantly tell myself, if I can create a boogeyman, that helps to alleviate some of the pressure and responsibility from me. It's the God Satan syndrome, right? If I can pass it on to they, if I can say that there's this, can't quite put my finger on it. It is this elusive idea. There's this group. There is something that is always working that supersedes the power that I possess. So if I say things like the powers that be, I no longer consider the power of thee. I consume myself with something that I perceive to have no control over. So guess where that puts me? Guess where that leaves me? I'm a victim. I'm a victim. And when you are a victim, there's no need for you to do anything. You are, see, if, in the church, they would say like, God can give Satan the permission to touch you, but he can't destroy you. So if I'm getting off on this idea that something else can put his hand on me and control and dictate my life and my fate, then there's no need for me to do anything other than what I'm doing. There's no point. And so that's where we find ourselves. Here we are. What do you do about it, though? What is life saying to all of us? Life is sending messages and we're not getting them. And because this is what life is so good, right? Life gonna circle the block. The lessons from 2020 that we did not learn, that people missed. Oh, baby, don't even worry. Life is so kind. It's so giving. It's so considerate. It's going to circle the block, baby. It's like the ice cream truck. It'll be back. It'll be back. The lesson. But what can we say? Let's break it down into a couple things. Lesson 1, we could say, you cannot depend on the physical. Well, we're going to lose most people right there. We're going to lose most people right there. You can't tell me I can't depend on the physical, Rook. What are you saying to me? I am saying that the physical cannot be the driver. I am saying that you cannot look at the reports of the world and take that as the gospel. That cannot supersede what you know to be true. Well, they working on all sorts of stuff in the labs. So, you don't think they've been working on things in labs? Really? You think they just started that within the last few years? Is that what you believe? Yeah, but what they really trying to plan is, you think they ain't been trying to plan? Why do you put so much power? Like what would happen if you put half of the amount of power, belief, and intensity that you give to this obscure thing? If you gave that to yourself, right? Like, if you give yourself half, the wake-up call is you cannot lean not on your own understanding. That's what that verse means. There is something that supersedes the physical. There is something like how a lot of people got into a jam, I guess we could call it, in 2020, 2021, is because the physical said, you ain't got no other option. You don't have another choice. If you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. So you have to, no, let me rephrase that. It wasn't even if you don't do this, because people feel like they didn't have a choice. So they didn't even consider if I don't. They framed it in their mind that I have to do this because I got to feed my family. I got to do this. I got to do that. And they felt justified in that. When the message, the lesson in the moment was, the physical doesn't decide. The physical doesn't determine your well-being. It doesn't determine your ability to take care of yourself and your family. The message was, lean onto that which is everlasting. Trust in that which is a constant. I have not given you the power. I have not given you. Let me see if I'm going to get it right now. I have not given you. Damn, how did that verse go? I have not given you the something of fear, but of love and of power and a sound mind. Spirit, that's the word. I have not given you the spirit of fear. I have not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. So if you're operating out of a spirit of fear, then you know it cannot be of God. It cannot be of spirit. It cannot be of the divine. You know this. So the lesson here is you cannot depend on the physical. And there are folks now who missed the lesson then, and they're missing it now. Because the physical is saying, I've gotten jacked up. My body is sick. I shouldn't have done this. But instead of leaning into the power, into the love, into the soundness of mind, we depend on the physical. And the physical says, I got no options. I'm stuck. They jacked me. They screwed me. Doctors don't know what's going on. They don't know how to fix it. They say I'm going to be on this drug for the rest of my life, and you accept that. So who's the problem here? That's what a wake-up call is, man. Wake-up call is shaking your beliefs. It's shaking your foundation. It's even every moment. This is what I love about it. Like, even when I feel like I've gotten good in a certain area, something comes and says, let's see. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. It's some messages. I know people get angry. People want to argue and debate about the Bible. And I get it. Been there, done that. But once you develop and mature a little bit, it's a masterpiece. It is an absolute masterpiece. And I'm not really interested in debating who, what, when. I mean, I get into it too. But take what is offered and use it. You can make anything come alive for you with the right level of understanding and the right consciousness. So anyway, where were we? We were talking about wake-up calls, the message of the moment. So 1, you cannot depend on the physical. 2, life is always working in your favor. God, that's a good one. I mean, I think if you can master that one, you might be good. I think that one alone is like, do you understand the perspective? Do you understand the power that you gain by accepting that life is always working in my favor? Like, in the midst of devastation, in the midst of death. See, death still got a lot of y'all by the throat. That's why you got jammed up, because you were fearful. So until you release this fear, until you stop allowing fear of death to be your God, then you always gonna get finessed. They, right? We give so much power to that. They. Who is the they? Who is it? Well, we don't really know, but you know who it is, right? But we know they exist. Won't you create a team of they for yourself? You ever thought about going into your creative space and creating this squad that you meet with? Well, no, Rook, because that sounds kind of crazy. I know, I'm crazy. And you shouldn't listen to crazy people, unless you're crazy too. But what would happen if you created this committee? Because that's essentially what you've created in the world. You've created a they, and you don't know who they are. But you have assigned identities. You have created this posse. And they are a mafia. They are gangsters. They are wicked. They are diabolical. There are all these things. I am saying, what would happen if you created the opposite of that for yourself? If you create as much power and as much emotions that you put into this other imaginary thing. I'm not saying that there aren't people in places who work to do things that are not to the benefit of humanity. We're not saying that. I am saying what will happen if you would create the same level of intensity about a squad that's working on your favor. Ooh, what would that like? Could you be the conversations that you start to have, right? You like, listen, I'm gonna tell you about they, all right? The way they rock with me, the way they take care of me, you can't touch me. And yes, I did do something that I feel was not beneficial to me. But they gonna make sure that I still work this thing to my favor. They gonna make sure I transmute whatever that was that I thought was to my detriment. It's gonna ultimately come out to my good. I'm saying, what would happen if you understood that you had a team more powerful than any other squad that you believe existed, what would happen? I ain't interested. See, this is where I get irritated with the whole idea of people talking about spirituality. Do you know the fundamentals? And you cannot start. You cannot start with all is mind. The universe is mental. All is mind. See, whenever I slip on my pimping, I'm coming back to home base. Home base says, Rook, all is mind. The universe is mental. So that, let me calm down and get excited. What is there really to trip off of? If all is mind and I'm going back to mind, I'm going to check mind. So when a doctor would tell me that, yo, you just got to take this for the rest of your life now. Oopsie, you was one of the rare people. Your heart is on fire now. Sorry. Your blood is thickening and clotting now. Just take this thinner. You're probably going to have to, not probably, you're going to have to take it for the rest of your life. I go back to the foundation and I say, well, wait a minute. If all is mind, then this illness I'm dealing with got to tie back to what? Y'all be playing with this thing. So I know you ain't sick. You don't really want to come out the Matrix. That's just sexy. It sounds fun. The Matrix is a documentary. Is it though? What have you learned from it? What have you learned from it? Other than create memes out of it. What have you taken and applied? What have you said? Have you actually said, damn, I want to be able to activate whatever it was that Neo activated. When Morpheus said, no. Well, Neo said Morpheus. So what you're saying to me is that I can dodge bullets. Morpheus said no. I'm saying when you ready, you ain't even gonna have to. Do you understand that when the bullet can't touch you? Do you understand it don't matter what nobody doing in no lab? Look, they creating all sorts of stuff. They gonna release. You think they ain't been releasing stuff? You think they ain't been? Come on, man. Where's your power? You weak, and it's disgusting. You'd rather be philosophical. You'd rather be intellectual versus actually be a demonstrator of what you say is truth. Walk that talk. Talk that shit. You believe what you believe. Yeah, you church niggas, then talk it. If Jesus is this and that for you, and I ain't got no problem with it. He died for your sins. By his stripes you were healed. Then why ain't your raggedy ass healed? Problem. That's a problem. Sounds like you are a hearer of the word, but you're not a doer of the word. So, 1, you cannot depend on the physical. 2, life is always working in your favor. And lastly, what is the last message that life is giving us? Do you understand whenever I use the word life, whenever I use the word universe, whenever I use the word spirit, I'm talking about your ass. You. You, my friend. It's you. So lastly, what is you trying to tell you? Illness. What would I say? What would life be saying about illness? Illness is here to serve you. That's what I would say about illness. Illness is here to serve you. Illness is trying to help you to create meaning out of life, right? We could debate. I love when people get all in their feelings and they say, well, I hate y'all. Y'all be talking about this is necessary. This is necessary. I know I could have learned that lesson without the illness. How do you know? How you know? Because that's speculation. How you know? How you know that? You don't know that. How can you experience something? Like, how can you be connected to all things? This is when I know there's a disconnect between our understanding of our spirit. You cannot be a part of all of this, right? And something come before you and it not be in tune with you. You be a part of it and it be a part of you. It is connected. So I am not saying, and this is where my frustration came out of church, because it was almost like there was a glorification of suffering. It was almost like to be righteous or to prove that you was righteous, you needed to be poor and broke down, and that was honorable. And that just didn't sit right with my spirit. I'm like, no. There has to be something that's being, misinterpreted with this whole idea, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. There's got to be something else. And what I come to find out was that, I got it now. There is intentional suffering and unintentional suffering. Okay? When I pull away from the table and I don't take in certain things, or when I fast for a period of time that actually causes some disruption to my physical, there is some urgings, there may be some temptations, or there may be some cravings, or there may be some agitation, right? That is intentional suffering. I know exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what comes out of me doing it. Unintentional. Now that's what the church specializes in. You have parishioners who have suffered 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Unintentionally. They don't want to be broke. I don't care what nobody say. No, they want to drive the Cadillac like the pastor. They do. They would like to take some trips too. They would like to be able to provide certain things for their children too. They would like to be well. Even though they trusted in God, at a certain point they would like not to be in pain anymore. That's unintentional suffering. You're in hell, but you don't know why. And more importantly, you don't know what to do to get out. So illness has a way of waking you up. It has a way of getting your attention. If mind, body, and spirit, if this is a holistic flow, the Trinity, if the body is not well, then certainly the mind cannot be well. And if the mind ain't well, I know there has to be some sort of interference that is happening at the spiritual level. I don't like the idea of disconnect, because spirit is spirit. You can't disconnect from spirit. You certainly can cloud the signal, but I don't believe that you can ever disconnect. So if you're experiencing, hardships, confusing times, like confusion moves you closer to the truth. It does. Or we should say it has the potential to. It has the ability to. Life is trying to get your attention. It's trying to send you a wake-up call. It's trying to send us messages. And some people decided to hop off the ride. That's why they're no longer with us. That's their choice. There are people who will be... That will be the option. Okay? The option will be step into the unknown. Get real dirty, get real bloody, get real sweaty, be real uncomfortable, get real agitated. You're going to feel a little fear. But to surrender. Just surrender to the unknown. That will be option one. And the other option is to stay where you are. The problem with trying to hold on to the old is the old is self-destructing. Don't you see it? The old world is passing away. So you can certainly try to hold on to the old, but you're going to self-destruct with it. That's what the community is finding out. The old is done. You can sing Kumbaya. You can put up your fists. You can wear, whatever you like to wear and get in the streets and do whatever. But the old way cannot sustain you. We look in nature. I love the snake. I've been fascinated by the snake simply because it's one of those symbols that, we have been taught, particularly coming out of church or being in church, that it's the evil, it's the sign of Satan, going back to creation story. And anything that anybody tells you to avoid completely, that's usually an indicator of what you should put some attention to. Just as a rule of thumb. What the world says yes to, typically you should say no to. When the world says no to, you should typically say yes to. So I've been fascinated by the serpent. And when you start to dig into the serpent energy and understand yet another misinterpretation. Yet another, I don't know what we call it, misinformation, disinformation. But when we look in nature, the snake is constantly shedding its skin, right? Constantly. And I used to be fascinated in school when we would go. We would have folks that would come. I don't know where they were from. But it was like different little, I don't know. I don't know if they came from. We didn't really have any. I'm from the country, so we didn't have no zoos nearby. But wherever they came from, they would come with different animals, and that would be what that day was. We were seeing the so-and-so exhibit, right? And they would bring different things that we could see, and they would have it in a container. And I was always fascinated by the amount of skin that snakes would shed. I didn't really put too much thought to it. But as I learned that this is so good. This is so good. The snake is constantly shedding its skin because it's constantly growing. And the current skin cannot sustain the new body. So what would happen if anything interrupted the skin's ability to shed efficiently, effectively, whatever you want to call it? It would essentially begin to suffocate it. The old, trying to hold on to the old shell, which cannot sustain the new body, it would start to squeeze it, suffocate it, to take life from it, causing it to go blind first and eventually die. Lessons. Holding on to the old. We all do it, or we all at least attempt to do it, or have. At a certain point, you got to let go. The story of this world, what you think, this is the problem that the church is having. I love talking about church folks because they ain't got no answers. They just say the same things. If with all of what they claim is wrong with the world, what is your place in it? Why are you here? And this is where it gets funny. Whenever I have a conversation and it goes back and forth, right? When they have nothing left to say, this is what they end with. Well, it's all written anyway. This is just what's gonna come before Jesus come back. All right, bruh. If you say so. Like, whatever you got to tell yourself. But if you are trying to position yourself as the way that I'm a soldier. Okay. I'm in the in club. I am, we have the answers. Come join us. Be down with us. We are the only way. Like, you people are the most fearful I've ever seen in my life. People who claim Soon and very soon, we going to see the king. Y'all don't want to see no king. Don't nothing scare y'all more than death. I'm just saying. Something to think about. Anyway, the point of this discussion is life gonna get your attention one way or the other, or you just gonna decide to tap out. Those are the options. But you gotta decide, what means more to you. Seeing what you're made of, seeing what you're capable of, seeing it's the possibilities that turn me on. I mean, nothing gets me in a state of ecstasy than thinking about the possibilities. What if it is me? What if it is you? What if, like, all of the pain, all of the hardships, all of the things that brought me to my knees, every last one of them. I swear I wanted to be able to tell another story to this, but all of them have elevated me in ways I can't even explain. All of it. So it will be fool of me to look at anything going forward as a negative. It would be fool of me to not understand that out of pain, you can purpose your pain. You can take whatever life offers and use it to your benefit. Those dealing with illness, man, you're not gonna be able to get your. This is what your spirit is trying to tell you. Where you're looking for answers, you will not find them. You must look elsewhere. And if you're too stubborn to do that, then stay where you are. Suffer. That is the option. Suffer. But at any point that you decide to change course, at any point that you decide to look in another direction, at any point do you feel what I'm saying to you? I would like life to come alive for you. I would like you to experience this lifetime, what it feels like to just believe in your own possibilities. Believe that there is greatness within you. Believe that you actually can live an exceptional life. Believe that you don't have to die sick. Don't die sick. You can go out on top. I don't know where we got this idea that you got to just go on this decline until you just phase out. No, not at all. So, the messages will continue to come. The lessons will continue to repeat until you catch it. You either catch it or you won't. You know what? One thing that I love about parenting is that you start to see things through your own parents' eyes, and it brings a lot of that criticism that you had down. Like, ooh. Everybody, like the two words I'm about to put in the trash can: trauma and transparency. Like, people just like to take these words and jack off to them. So everybody we want like a little ribbon. My trauma. So everybody got trauma to some degree or another. So, like, why do we got to create an identity out of every damn thing? That's another discussion. My point is, I don't remember what my point was. God is not giving you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That's a hell of an affirmation to start to embed in your heart and your mind and your spirit. Do you believe what you say you believe? Are you who you think you are? Life just giving you an opportunity to test that. And if you're not, I want to know. I want to know if I'm not as good at something as I think I am. If I say that I am, full of faith, But when hard times come up, I fold. I need to know that before some real ish pop off. I need to know how to keep my nervous system functioning in such a way that every little thing doesn't trigger me. Every little thing doesn't agitate me. Every little thing can't get my attention. Power. Activating that power within. Self-control. It's work. It's work. That's why don't nobody want to do it. Last thing I say is this. And this is probably a whole nother discussion as well. When you are chosen, you can't be unchosen. What does that mean? What you talking about, Brooke? What does chosen mean? First, it means to seek out. That's all this whole idea of chosen is. There's nobody in the sky choosing you. You chose yourself. At the spiritual level, it is you speaking to you. It is the part of you that seeks out the more, the greater, the higher. That's what makes you chosen. It's why you can't turn it off. I was telling my folks in the inner circle, how do you know what your thing is? How do you know? It's what you can't run away from. It's what you keep coming back to. You turn your attention and work on something else for a year, for 2 years, but that thing, it won't let you escape. What you find is that it ain't chasing you. It's in you. It's in you. And when it's in you, you can't run. You can't hide. You can't turn it off. Sometimes you can try to silence it. You can try to numb yourself from it, but it's there. That's the thing. And you got to be so comfortable. You got to be so comfortable in knowing that it's okay if I really don't know right now. If I don't really have all the answers right now. If I can't, if I can't figure it out all right now, I just trust that my spirit gonna lead the way. I'm gonna get to where I need to be when I need to be there. I'm gonna get what I need to get when I need to get it. Do you just feel like you good no matter what? It's a question. Question worth asking. And if not, it might be good to put some attention there. To start sitting with that. What do I want for myself? What does it feel like? What does life on the other side feel like? You ever imagine yourself stepping into another timeline? You know how some of the movies and the shows, I don't know if you've ever seen, what's that movie that I was watching where they were crossing over into different, I think it's on HBO Max, His Dark Material, so that's a good one. And then there is there's another one. I don't know if that's Westworld or if that's it's an old school. Fringe is a good series. I think it's on Amazon Video. It came out many years ago, but it was about. Anyway, my point in saying this is that they often have. You can see it on Rick and Morty too, right? So you see the portal hole, right? And they step in and you go into a different timeline. You go into a different reality. Have you ever envisioned yourself stepping into the reality that you want? Like, do you know the power of creating images in your mind and going there in your creative world? Like, When you wake up in the morning to go, you could go into a meditative state and envision yourself stepping into another timeline. And in this timeline, you are who you desire to be, who you really believe yourself. Like the things that resonate with you, you cannot see in another person that which is not in yourself. So if you see power in another person, if you see boldness, if you see courageousness, if you see health, right? If you see health and fitness and wellness, and that means something to you, it's in you. It's coming up for you for a reason. Lean into the things that resonate with you is my message. You don't have to live sick and you don't have to die sick. You don't have to live afraid. You don't have to die afraid. There are options. Life is trying to send you that message. Catch it. Think about it. Take care.